Hello and welcome back to another Star Wars Legion video. Today we are going to be talking about the GAR Commanders, and I'm going to be ranking them based on how I play the game, where I see them in terms of how often I take them, how I think about them, and we're just going to generally get into it that way. I'm going to start off with some of the people that I've never ran, and I'm just going to put them in B tier just because I don't really know how they play, and that's going to be Wookiee Chieftain here. We're just going to put him in B tier just because I don't know what to think about him. But yeah, he's in B tier. He's the only one that I have that opinion of, just because I don't play with Wookiees that much in my armies. So yeah. The next person I want to talk about is probably who I considered the worst commander overall for the GAR faction, and he's on this list. Yes, it's Pike Syndicate Capo, and it's because he's a mercenary leader, mercenary commander. You can take him in the GAR. I think the GAR have just so much better options for how you should be running the GAR, specifically the clone commander, generic commander unit there, that there's no reason to take this mercenary guy if you just want a cheaper commander. He might be nice if you're running some pikes in the GAR. Whenever I'm making my GAR armies, I never run pikes. I just don't find them as good as my GAR forces, and so I will always pick clone infantry or some other force over taking the points that it would take to take pikes. And since I don't take pikes, there's no reason to take the Pike Syndicate Capo. Never really ran him in the GAR. I've ran him in Shadow Collective. I think he's great in that, but overall, he's just not very useful when it comes to the GAR. Moving on, we're going to talk about the new Ahsoka Tano. And honestly, I think she is in a very interesting and versatile spot. With that speed 3 move and her command cards, I think she can be an unexpected threat on the battlefield. And I think whenever she first releases and is actually fully released, people in game stores are probably going to be surprised on how threatening she actually is, even though she only rolls 2 white and 5 black compared to the other force users or melee commanders out there who roll more attack dice. I think some of her command cards really give her that edge, and if you go back and watch my other video on how I build her, that's kind of why. Like, those extra dodges, I think, really make her punch, and you're able to take aims on another card. Just makes her a serious threat on the field, and for that, I think she is A tier, because not only is she a unexpected threat, she is also one of the best defensive commanders in the game. With Shin Mastery, this is defensive specifically against ranged attacks, so because her deflect gets upgraded to where, well, maybe it's more of an offensive defensive, because Shin Mastery just makes it so anytime you roll a surge, whenever you're taking a ranged attack, that doesn't get past deflect, so nothing with like high velocity or anything else like that that would ignore deflect, or if a weapon has immune deflect. But she is a serious threat when it comes to those others. So like if General B1s are shooting at her and then all of a sudden she rolls like 2 surges, that's 2 B1s dead, and that's just really good. Very luck based, but she also is very defensive when it comes to that. And you can also make her generate a lot of dodges if you don't want her taking that risk of rolling those reds. But I think it's a very good place for her as A tier. Next up is Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one himself. And out of everyone on this tier list, I think I always have the most fun running Anakin, due to how he feels, his power level, everything about him I think is just great. It makes you really like see what we see in episode 2 and the Clone Wars and episode 3 really come to life on the tabletop. And for that, I'm going to put him S tier. There's loads of other reasons you can put him in S tier, whether it's his Jimso mastery. He's a beast in melee. You get him in the melee, he is going to kill that unit probably. Even if it's another force shielder, like 8 times out of 10, whenever I have him up against like another melee combatant who's a commander, he wins. And he's just very good. And the only time he's lost is actually to his son, that I can think of. The only time that I've had him lose to a commander that wasn't him was to his son Luke, when my buddy threw Luke at him. And even when it was on a turn that he played Luke's command card that gave Luke 2 attacks, even then he did 2 damage back to Luke because of his mastery keyword, and Luke ended up dying that round while taking out Anakin. So I thought it was a fair trade, but it was pretty fun. So yeah, Anakin, just super fun to play. Super amazing character. They did a great job. He's also has Courage 3, which is great for Commander Bubble. So yeah, just overall, very good GAR leader. Finally, well, not finally, next up is Chewbacca. And I gotta say, I think he's C tier. Again, the only reason Wookiee Chieftain is in B tier is because I've never ran him. Chewbacca is in C tier because I don't think he's that great for GAR, unless you're doing the gimmick with Yoda, where he's able to move Yoda around faster, which is great for Yoda. But he's just not what I want for the point value for GAR, and GAR's armies are already super expensive, so you have to really crunch those numbers for points, and I just hardly ever take him anymore. But yeah, so he's C tier, just not what I want out of a commander for the GAR. Next up is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and honestly, kind of the similar thing with Chewbacca. In old edition, Obi-Wan to me was S tier, but because of the rules changes and everything about how the game changes, where it's only 5 rounds now versus 6, and the movement of the game being important and how playstyles work, I think he's now just A tier, and that's because I really only want to put a certain number of commanders up in S tier, which is the real reason that Obi-Wan and like Ahsoka are down in A, because honestly I think they can be S tier if played correctly. I think they both take a higher skill ceiling to play, I guess, overall, to get the value out of them that you need. Me personally, not that great at the game, so Obi-Wan A tier. I only win about like probably less than half of the games that I play. Super fun game, but that's why I'm probably not good with Obi-Wan. So I'm putting him in A tier here, just because I always kind of regret taking him, and again, that could just be how I'm playing, so take that as it will. But there you go, he is an A tier for me. Next up, let's talk about the generic commander for the GAR, which is the Clone Commander. Just a generically Clone Commander. I think he's a solid choice for GAR. He's cheap. He gets direct clone core trooper unit, which is great for getting those orders out. And something the GAR struggles with overall is having good order control. And now with the limited HQ uplink, you have a little bit even less, because you can only have 2 per army. So having direct trooper unit or direct any unit is fantastic and a solid choice. And the reason he's B tier is because he may not be a threat when it comes to like damage, but he is a solid support commander. You're never gonna regret taking him. He is just a very solid commander overall. Pretty cheap, so if you have like just enough points for him. Boom, you can take him naked. You don't need to put any upgrades on him. He is just ready to go, which is great. I can almost say the same thing about our next person, which is Clone Commander Cody. I will put him up in A tier. I think he is basically just a step above that Clone Commander there when it comes to support abilities. He has a free Observe 2, putting those Observe tokens down. His command cards have like a little mini game with Observe tokens, so that's a kind of fun like thing to think about is who you put those observes on, and then you can use those observes to do other things depending on what Commander Cody card you played. So it's just really fun. And a step above the Clone Commander generic commander, he has direct vehicle, so you can give an order to a vehicle, and so that is just very, very nice if you're running some kind of vehicle in the Force. And if you're not running a vehicle, I don't really see taking Cody as an option. So he's very vehicle. He's still a good support commander, but if you just wanted a support commander without a vehicle, I would definitely take Clone Commander. Cheaper, does almost the same thing, a little bit worse, but overall, Commander Cody is a fantastic pick. Next is Yoda. My favorite character growing up from Star Wars, Yoda. And honestly, if it was the old edition, he would be top of the list, 100% the best commander for the GAR. However, with the new edition and how it plays, I think he just is a step below Anakin, and this mostly comes from his movement speed is 1, and you can obviously make him go faster on certain turns. His command card shuffling is a little bit worse now that it's only 5 rounds. You can get back, I think, 2 command cards and replay them, but besides that, you're not doing as much as you could with old Yoda, where you got basically you could play all 3 of his command cards twice if you went all 6 rounds, which is just fantastic. So yeah, it's a little bit worse. You have to think a little bit more, which makes him a little bit harder to play because you have to think about the game first turn if you want to keep playing his command cards overall. If you don't, then that's fine, but that's why I think he's a little bit worse now when it comes to generic play. I think he has less options. I think he's still better than the other commanders that we've already ranked. Overall, he's still a powerhouse. He has Guidance Trooper, which is just a fantastic ability, and the reason he is still S tier in this list to me is because of Guidance Trooper. It's just a fantastic ability. His mastery is really good, but yeah, it's just a little bit worse than Anakin overall when it comes to power, play, and holding the field. And finally, our last commander on the list, and probably the commander I honestly take second most or most, is Clone Captain Rex. And I think with the new edition of the game, even before he was pretty S tier, but now it's even more so with S tier. His 1-pip is a fantastic card to play. It allows you to give basically his weapon dice on any ally attack against an enemy that is within 2 of Rex. So the enemy has to be within 2 of Rex, and then you get 3 red dice if an ally is attacking that person when you play his 1-pip. He has Scouting Party 2, which if you put Recon Intel in, upgrade onto him, that puts him up to Scout 2 instead of Scout 1. And then with Scouting Party 2, you can give 2 of your units Scout 2, which means your units get onto the board faster, which means you're able to contest and take more ground faster, which in my instance of playing, that is what is most important, I guess. Not most important, but like it's very nice to get those range 2 threats into close combat as soon as you can and take as much board as you can, space. That way They have to fight through you, I guess. But I mean, I don't play in the competitive scene yet, so I can't tell you too much about that end and how good this tier list actually is to competitive play. This is mostly with just my experience, how each of these commanders play out. I want to emphasize that this isn't from a competitive, super competitive standpoint. This isn't like for worlds or anything else like that. This is how I think all of these commanders fall into place in the GAR faction. And to me, that is pretty much it. This is my perfect list here. If you notice, a lot of them are S and A tier, and that is just because the GAR faction excels at its commanders, but its operatives are kind of lackluster, except for the Bad Batch. And the Bad Batch is another reason Yoda is up in S tier still, because that guidance trooper. It plays really well with Bad Batch. So yeah. If you disagree, that's fine. If you agree, awesome. But yeah, give me what you think in the comments, and I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.